which, by the way, how annoying is The View getting? God, they're insufferable, that lot, aren't they? It's just a side effect. And I've been criticising them for 8 years for doing it, pointing out that it's not the job of the media to take sides.
Sunny Hostin, a name synonymous with fiery debates and controversial takes, has found herself at the center of a brewing storm that seems to have no end in sight. The co-host of The View has always been a polarizing figure, but lately the whispers of her potential ousting from the show have become deafening. While The View thrives on heated exchanges and differing perspectives, Hostin's recent string of remarks has reportedly pushed even the show's producers to the brink. Are they finally ready to pull the plug on one of their most contentious voices? Or is Hostin simply too valuable despite the chaos she brings?
It's the more insidious, secret partisan behavior of very liberal-dominated newsrooms working at the supposedly impartial.
It all began with what some are calling the most divisive comment Hostin has ever made on live television. During a post-election discussion about Donald Trump's sweeping victory over Kamala Harris, Hostin referred to white women who voted for Trump as uneducated. The remark wasn't just a casual observation. It was delivered with a tone that many viewers found condescending, even venomous. Within minutes of the episode airing, social media platforms were ablaze. Critics accused Hostin of perpetuating stereotypes and alienating a significant portion of the audience. But it didn't stop there. The backlash quickly spilled over into the mainstream media, with commentators and public figures weighing in on what they saw as an unforgivable misstep. Devin Mostert, the wife of Miami Dolphins star Raheem Mostert, was among those who didn't hold back. She blasted Hostin's comment as disgusting and unacceptable, adding fuel to the firestorm. Mostert's response, shared on her social media platforms, gained traction almost immediately, with fans of The View and Trump supporters alike rallying behind her. How can someone with such an elitist attitude sit there and claim to represent women of color while tearing down other women? Mostert wrote, a sentiment that seemed to echo across various corners of the internet.
But I would tell them to look at themselves very hard in the mirror and say, have we really not brought this on ourselves?
The producers of The View reportedly found themselves in a precarious position. On one hand, Hostin's polarizing opinions have often been a ratings magnet. Controversy, after all, has been the lifeblood of the show for years. On the other hand, the backlash this time felt different, more personal, more visceral. According to insiders, some producers were genuinely concerned that Hostin's comment had crossed a line that could alienate a crucial segment of their audience. The tension behind the scenes was palpable, with heated debates about whether Hostin should issue a public apology or if the show should distance itself from her altogether. But instead of dialing things back, Hostin seemed to double down. In subsequent episodes, she took aim at Trump supporters, accusing them of cultural resentment and claiming that the election results were a referendum on racism and misogyny. If her earlier comments had sparked a fire, these remarks poured gasoline on the flames. Co-host Elisa Farah Griffin, a former Trump administration official, visibly bristled during the exchange, often interrupting Hostin to offer counterpoint. The tension between the two women reached a boiling point on air, with Hostin at one point snapping, "Can I finish talking?" as Griffin tried to interject. Viewers were divided. Some applauded Hostin's boldness, while others accused her of being dismissive and unwilling to engage in genuine dialogue.
Having some more conservative voices on your network, actually not making them pariahs, not directing your audience to feel that everything that Donald Trump does.
Behind the scenes, the drama only intensified. Sources close to the show revealed that producers were growing increasingly frustrated with Hostin's unwillingness to toe the line. One insider described the atmosphere as toxic, with co-hosts and staff walking on eggshells around Hostin for fear of triggering another on-air meltdown. Despite the turmoil, the producers reportedly felt trapped. Hostin's presence on the show, for better or worse, was a key driver of its notoriety and ratings.
Mr. Speaker, have you been discovered? Has Sunny Hostin discovered that the real motivation here, should you pass a baby bump tax incentive, is not to combat what looks like a very scary future of not just the U.S., but actually many countries across Western civilization, to reverse declining birthing rates, but actually what you're out there doing is trying to bring in new white babies?
The cost, it seems, may extend beyond The View itself. Hostin's personal life has also come under scrutiny, adding another layer of complexity to the situation. Her husband, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, is currently embroiled in a legal battle over allegations of insurance fraud. The accusations claim that Dr. Hostin overbilled for medical procedures, a charge he vehemently denies. Sunny Hostin has publicly defended her husband, accusing the insurance company of targeting him unfairly. "This is nothing more than a smear campaign," she said during a recent interview. "My husband is an honest man who has dedicated his life to helping others." But not everyone is convinced. Critics argue that Hostin's passionate defense of her husband only adds to her perceived air of arrogance and entitlement. "It's one thing to stand by your partner, but she's acting like they're above reproach," said one industry insider. The legal drama has only amplified the calls for Hostin to step down from The View, with some fans suggesting that her personal issues are becoming a distraction from the show's core mission. Even within the show's own ranks, the cracks are beginning to show. Co-hosts like Griffin and Sarah Haynes have reportedly expressed frustration with Hostin's domineering presence during discussions. While the disagreements have mostly played out on air, insiders claim that the behind-the-scenes dynamics are even more fraught. "There's a lot of resentment building up," one source said. "Sunny has this way of making everything about her, and it's rubbing people the wrong way." And then there's the issue of the show's reputation. The View has always been a lightning rod for controversy, but Hostin's recent comments have pushed it into uncharted territory. Critics argue that the show is becoming increasingly divisive, turning into a platform for personal grievances rather than constructive debate. Even some longtime fans have expressed disillusionment, questioning whether the show has lost its way.
Absolutely absurd. The View is an absurd program. Yours, on the other hand, Will, is fantastic. You're doing a great show, and I'm so honored to be with you. Look, that's no surprise what The View is doing there. Every creative idea that the president and this White House come up with, they pan immediately, no matter what merit it may have. We are the Republican Party. We're the pro-family party. We always have been. We take great pride in that. We're working every day to rebuild a culture of life.
Despite the growing chorus of criticism, Hostin remains defiant. She has refused to apologize for her remarks, insisting that she is simply speaking the truth. "I'm not here to sugarcoat things," she said during a recent episode. "If that makes people uncomfortable, so be it." But as the backlash continues to mount, one has to wonder, how much longer can The View afford to keep her around? And perhaps more importantly, how much longer will Hostin want to stay in an environment where she is increasingly at odds with her co-hosts, the producers, and a significant portion of the audience? As the tension reaches a fever pitch, the question of Sunny Hostin's future on The View looms larger than ever. But this isn't just about one co-host. The controversies surrounding Hostin have exposed deeper fault lines within the show itself, raising uncomfortable questions about its direction, its purpose, and its ability to adapt in an increasingly polarized world. And just when you think things couldn't get more complicated, there's the broader issue of The View co-host dynamics to consider, a web of rivalries, alliances, and controversies that threatens to unravel the show from within. But that's a story for another time, or perhaps the next chapter. And yet, Sunny Hostin's unraveling is only a snapshot of the chaos rippling through the entire fabric of The View. If her controversies are the flashpoint, the rest of the cast is the kindling, and together they've created a firestorm of dysfunction that threatens to consume the show from the inside out. The conflicts, the accusations, the thinly veiled animosity, it's all there, simmering just beneath the surface and sometimes boiling over for everyone to see. Hostin may be the lightning rod right now, but she's far from the only one stirring the pot. The truth is, The View has become a battlefield, and every co-host is fighting for their own survival.
In America, we support all children. We love all life. That's what we've always been about. It's actually in our platform, and the Democratic Party stands for the opposite. You know, those views illustrate that.
Yeah, and that is an actual fact that the Republican Party has been dedicated to the growth of the family for most of the last half century, if not more.
Take Elisa Farah Griffin, for instance. On paper, she was supposed to be the perfect counterbalance. Young, conservative, with insider credentials from her time in the Trump administration. But instead of bringing balance, she's brought gasoline to an already volatile mix. Griffin has become notorious for interrupting her co-host mid-sentence, often in a way that feels less like debate and more like a calculated power move. Her clashes with Hostin are the most obvious, with tension between the two women often so thick it feels like one wrong word could shatter the entire set. But Griffin's interruptions don't stop there. She's cut off Whoopi Goldberg mid-thought, talked over Sarah Haynes, and even dared to interject when Joy Behar, who practically radiates seniority, was making a point.
As the family, they de-emphasize the merit of marriage, strong, steady, stable marriages between one man and one woman that produce children, you know? I mean, this is part of the uphill climb that we have in working against the culture, but we'll continue to do that, and public policy should reflect.
The interruptions have become such a pattern that they've sparked their own backlash. Fans on social media have called Griffin out for what they perceive as arrogance, labeling her a scene stealer who's desperate to prove herself. Behind the scenes, the whispers are even more pointed. According to insiders, Griffin's behavior has ruffled feathers among the producers, who see her as a wild card that's increasingly difficult to manage. She's trying to make her mark, but she's alienating everyone in the process, one source revealed. It's like she thinks she's still in the briefing room, battling reporters, but this is a talk show, not a press conference. But Griffin's behavior isn't just a problem for her co-hosts, it's a headache for the producers, who are reportedly scrambling to contain the fallout. According to insiders, there have been multiple closed-door meetings about how to handle Griffin's growing reputation as a disruptor. Producers are said to be divided. Some see her as a necessary foil to the more liberal voices on the panel, while others worry that her combative style is alienating the audience and creating unnecessary tension. One source claims that Griffin was even offered private coaching to help her better navigate the dynamics of the table. But she allegedly declined, insisting that she doesn't need to change her approach. Adding fuel to the fire are whispers that Griffin is quietly positioning herself for a bigger role in the media landscape. Rumors have swirled that she's angling for her own show, a move that would explain her eagerness to dominate conversations and grab headlines. Whether or not there's truth to these claims, the perception alone has created even more friction behind the scenes. Some of her co-hosts reportedly feel like she's using The View as a stepping stone rather than a collaborative platform, and that resentment has only made the already tense dynamic even worse.
Let me say someplace that could really use a lot of cutting. You know, Elon has very many, what do you call it?
Government contracts?
Yeah. I think, because I don't remember, maybe y'all heard it, but I don't remember looking for an armored car. And I don't remember.
And then there's Whoopi Goldberg, the veteran moderator whose once unshakable authority now seems to be slipping away. Goldberg has always commanded a unique presence on the show, a blend of humor, wisdom, and a no-nonsense attitude that made her the natural leader of the table. But in recent years, her comments have sparked their own share of controversy. Her ill-advised comparison of the Holocaust to other forms of oppression drew widespread backlash, forcing her to issue a public apology. The incident cast a long shadow, with critics questioning whether Goldberg's judgment is still as sharp as it once was. What's more, Goldberg's frustration with her co-hosts has become increasingly apparent on air. During one particularly chaotic segment, she visibly rolled her eyes as Hostin and Griffin went at it, muttering under her breath about how nothing ever gets finished around here. Moments like these have fueled speculation that Goldberg is growing tired of the constant drama. Some insiders even suggest she's considering stepping back from the show altogether, though Goldberg herself has remained tight-lipped about her future plans. But if Goldberg's grip on the table is loosening, Joy Behar's hold on her role as the resident provocateur is as firm as ever. Behar has never been one to shy away from controversial statements, and her recent comments about Trump supporters being brainwashed have only added to her reputation as the show's most outspoken liberal. Yet, even Behar has found herself in hot water. Her off-the-cuff remark suggesting that Caroline Leavitt, Trump's new press secretary, only got the job because she's a 10, was widely condemned as sexist, with critics accusing Behar of hypocrisy. After all, this is a woman who has spent years championing women's rights and railing against misogyny. And now she's reducing another woman's achievements to her appearance?
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
The backlash was swift, with many calling for Behar to apologize. But in true Joy fashion, she doubled down, insisting that her comment was taken out of context. "I was making a joke," she said during the following episode, brushing off the criticism. If anything, the incident has only emboldened Behar, who seems determined to push boundaries no matter the cost. But how long can she keep walking that tightrope? And more importantly, how much longer will the audience and the network tolerate it? Even Sarah Haynes, who has long been considered the most neutral and level-headed of the group, hasn't been immune to the chaos. Haynes has increasingly found herself caught in the crossfire, often forced to play mediator between her feuding co-hosts. While her attempts to steer the conversation back on track are admirable, they've also exposed just how dysfunctional the dynamic has become. At times, Haynes looks visibly exasperated, as if she's wondering how she ended up in the middle of this circus. Insiders say she's privately voiced concerns about the direction of the show, though she's careful not to rock the boat publicly.
Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you.
And then there's the broader issue of The View's reputation. For years, the show has been a cultural touchstone, a place where women from different backgrounds and perspectives could come together to discuss the issues of the day. But lately, it feels like that mission has been overshadowed by infighting and controversy. Critics argue that the show has become more about the co-hosts' egos than the topics they're supposed to be discussing. The constant bickering, the personal attacks, the on-air meltdowns. It's all starting to feel less like a debate and more like a reality show.
Without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table.
The audience, too, seems to be growing weary. While the show's ratings have remained relatively stable, there has been a noticeable shift in viewer sentiment. Social media is flooded with comments from fans who say they've stopped watching because the show has become too toxic and too political. Even longtime viewers are questioning whether The View has lost its way. I used to watch for the thoughtful discussions, one fan wrote on Reddit. Now it's just a bunch of people yelling over each other. It's exhausting. But perhaps the most damning criticism comes from those who say the show is no longer representative of its audience. The View was once seen as a platform for everyday women to have their voices heard. But as the co-hosts become increasingly entrenched in their own perspectives, some viewers feel like their concerns are being ignored. Yet for all the drama and dysfunction, one thing is clear. The View isn't going anywhere, not yet at least. The show remains a ratings juggernaut, and its controversies only seem to fuel its cultural relevance. But how long can it sustain this level of chaos? And what happens if one of its key players, be it Hostin, Griffin, Goldberg, or Behar, decides to walk away? Here's the kicker. With so much tension brewing behind the scenes, it feels like something has to give. Will the producers finally step in and lay down the law? Will one of the co-hosts reach their breaking point? Or will The View just keep spiraling, becoming a case study in how not to run a talk show? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and as always, stay tuned, because this story is far from over. See you in the next one.